All right, good evening, everyone. I've got 7 o'clock. Today is Monday, August 28th, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting of the Committee of the Whole to order. We will start with a discussion item on 825 Tech Center Drive facilities up. Director Schultz. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, folks. So actually tonight, much like we did, I think back in June, I think it was, our folks, our friends from MSA are here to actually give the presentation. Largely tonight, what you're going to see is, I know that about 3 or 4 of you were, 3 were not present during the first exterior reveal, if you would, back in June. But we're gonna refresh on that. We're gonna go over some landscape architecture concepts that we've been working on, and then ultimately, I believe Mr. Hall here is going to end with some scheduling type things. So, take it away, sir.
Welcome back, Mr. Hall.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. As Kevin outlined there, we've been working diligently since the last time we met, and just the design of the project has been progressing. What I'm going to present tonight is primarily focused on the landscaping on the outside of the building. We've gone leaps and bounds on that and thought it was worth coming in here and sharing that with you this evening. And we've liked the direction it's gone and everything. But I'm also going to recap for some of you that weren't here what the exterior of the building looks like and so forth. That is continuing to develop, but not much. It still looks today what it looked like back in June. So I'm going to. So I shared this slide with you last time, and we just kept it in here. This is a pretty important slide to us as we go through the design process and the entire team makes decisions. Early on in that process, we defined project objectives or design objectives. So when we make decisions to move forward with particular design concepts and so forth, we always go back to these and make sure we're hitting our points. I'm not going to go through each one of them specifically. But I just wanted to put it back in front of you so that it could remind you of where, how we make our decision-making process. Is that not working? Oh, I just gave up. Oh, now it is working. So since tonight we're here really to talk about the site, kept these slides in here. This is the existing site. You can see the 4 buildings. One of the things I pointed out during our last presentation was if you look at these 4 buildings, they're almost identically the same. They're identically the same in their footprint to some extent, as well as in their architecture. So we've made an intentional effort to give your building its own unique identity as a municipal building for the city of Gahanna. And this is the proposed new site plan. You have parking on the northern side and parking on the south side. Most of our work is going to be concentrated on that north facade of the building. So that's all the light gray area you see that's attached to the dark gray box. The dark gray box is the existing building that sits out there today. And then there's a light gray element that's added right to the front of it, and that starts at the top. That's where the Parks and Rec Senior Center is, and it runs through the middle, and that's where the lobby with the council chambers are, and then eventually gets over to the police that's on the left side of the plan. There are 2 secure lines going across the parking. One is on the left side of the plan that separates the police from the parking lot to the north there, and then the other is on what I call the back side or the right side of the plan as you're looking at it, that separates the building administration folks from the rest of the public and so forth. The long, dark rectangles that you see on the far left and the far right of the plan, that's actually covered parking. So think of a carport that would have solar panels on top of it. So we are thinking about sustainable features in the building where it makes the most sense and bringing in green technology and those other amenities where it starts to make sense. The Couple other things I want to point out, that we are looking at the bike path right now out at the street. Actually comes down to our site, crosses the street, goes to the other side of the street, and then cuts back over and continues on up the hill. We are looking at pulling a bike path. We're not going to take the other one away. We're going to leave it there, but including a bike path on our side of the site. And even starting to talk about and work in features that the site itself can be used as a trailhead for the bike path for members or for community members to come and park their cars and then go ride their bike. Some other features was the existing site currently has this access drive that comes in and heads right for the front entrance. We've really just modified that quite a bit. We don't want to provide those direct lanes that drive into the front of the building, primarily from a security perspective. And as I get into the landscape presentation here in a bit, I'll start to talk a little bit more about that and where we have obstacles that further prevent that. The other thing I want to point out is that we made an effort on the police side. Remember, I talked about those two long rectangular boxes. For them to have an exit way that directly got them to the street without having to zigzag through the parking lot and everything. So if they have to get out of the building and respond, they can come out, get in their vehicles, and then exit directly to the street and head out. So we think we've efficiently laid out the site to accommodate as much as we possibly can. And then, as you get into the exterior, this is just a slide of the existing building. There's, as I mentioned before, there's several other buildings out there that look just like this. So early on, if you read our design goals, one of them was for this building to have a unique look to it that represents the community as a civic building. And this is what we're proposing. We are tearing off some of the existing facade, but we're having to do that because we're having to add so much space to the front of the building. There's spaces such as over to the left where we have the multi-purpose room, and then as you get to the lobby and even council chambers, where those spaces need to be high volume spaces, so ceilings similar to what you're seeing in here. The building itself has a 14-foot floor-to-floor for it throughout, so we've had to pull those unique spaces out to the front and position them as additions. And then the added value that brought to the table was to allow us to put a new facade on the building. The materials we're using is some stone, as you'll see to the left, and in the middle where the main entrance is, and then to the right where the police facility is. Stone, if you think about it, is a government, sort of brings a foundation to the building. It says that it's stable, it's here for a long time. And so that's what we're trying to bring that impression to the building. And then with all the glass along the front, the idea behind that is transparency, that you're not hidden behind a block wall, you're not hidden behind a brick wall. We're open and we're transparent about what we do on a daily basis. To the left of the plan, I just want to make sure everybody understands, that's where the senior center entrance is with the multi-purpose room. To the far right is where the police main entrance is. And in the middle where you see that little picture frame, that's where the main entrance to the building is. But if you go in the main entrance, you will still have access on an interior corridor to get down to both either the police or the multi-use room, senior area. And then this is just another view standing down by the police entrance. And I just want you to pay particular attention to the landscaping that we have in this view. It has, when I show you the updated renderings on the landscape plan, this was all a placeholder, essentially, when I presented it the last time. We have gone leaps and bounds on that. It's really kind of nice because it's created this park-like atmosphere at the front of the building. But there is a covered canopy. We still have that in the new landscape plan that connects from police all the way over to the main entrance. You see the main entrance sort of popping up in the back, and then, as I mentioned, glass or curtain wall back at the building admin sides. And then this is another view with to the left would be the multi-purpose rooms that are associated with the senior area, Parks and Rec, and then looking right down at where the main entrance to the building is. And then the landscape plan. So some things we've done, and one of the things we really challenged our landscape team with was to create more of an inviting park-like setting out in front of the building that the community will come to. Again, it gets back to that transparency. One of the things that the team here on the admin side has talked about since day one is they want the community to come to this building and they want the community to be engaged with this building. So we've created spaces that allow for that to happen. Some things we've done since the other plans is the middle green area there to the center of the drawing. That is where we still have a sign there, but we've expanded that a little bit and greened that up a little bit more. And I think we're talking about potentially a police memorial of some sort happening in that area too at this point. So we're still developing some things, but, and there's lots of areas where things like police memorials or whatever can be incorporated into the site as public art can be incorporated into this as time goes on. As you start at the top of the plan and work your way down, that is up there with a multi-use room, so sort of a meandering path. And then as you come down right at the main entrance in the building where it's sort of angled, there is a water feature. And I'll show some images here in a minute that you'll see this a little bit better, but we've incorporated a water feature. Then as you go down along from the main entrance down to the police, that is truly that's almost an outdoor living room of sorts. So that's where people can come and hang out. And then one of the things I want to point out that our landscape folks, they're not architects, but they do help us when we get into this stuff, is they came to us and they talked to us about this, and they said, hey, does this canopy really need to be solid all the way across? And thought it would be nicer if we incorporated a trellis piece to this. So it's just you've got a shade structure with covering where it needs to occur. You still have, if it's inclement weather outside, you can still get to the other sides of the building from the interior of the building without walking along the outside. So we thought that was a really nice feature as we got into this. And then you probably don't remember, but if you saw in the other renderings, architects are very linear in their thinking a lot of times, so it's hard for us to think about weaving something in. The landscape guys came in and they added a bunch of curvatures in this, and it's more weaved into the plan, which softens the edges of the building more than what we had shown in our landscape approach before. So again, as you're just sort of looking at the main entrance to the left, we've got the sign here in the middle. We'll have the 3 flagpoles. That's where we're talking about incorporating the police memorial, probably on the back side of that or something. And then you're looking into the building in the back, and you can kind of start to see some of the landscaping there. Some of the features we've talked about is that some of that green ground cover could actually be herbs. There's a number of different species of herbs that can be used as ground covers, so we're going to be looking into that. And then the other thing that we've been talking about is the use of bioswales in the plan. We have learned we have some detention that we need to take care of on the site that wasn't taken care of before. So with that, we are looking at how to handle that. And if we can work in some bioswales, they almost act like as sponges, if you want to say that, or collectors of debris and that sort of thing. And it doesn't really impact the detention system necessarily, and you're not down there cleaning it out and where it might clog up and everything. So that's a pretty nice feature where you might see some mounds in some pictures or some of the images I'm showing you. We are probably going to look at depressing those instead of bringing those up for that reason. And then this is a bird's eye view looking down in. If you look to the left, that's where the multi-use room is, and so you can see the pathway as it sort of meanders around. We'll use a unique stone paver for the paving. The area that starts, pretty much right in front of the main door, we'll depress that curb right there so that you can pull up and there's no obstacle from a ADA perspective. You can roll right into the building, but we'll bring the curb back up as you get around, because we just don't want to have people running up onto the pavement. We need to have a little bit of a blockage there. You'll start to see some boulders strategically placed around. So instead of structured bollards, we're going to use landscape features to help, again, that extra layer of passive security. So it doesn't look like you're behind a fortress necessarily. Again, I'll use the word transparency. It's an open building. Please come into it, to the community. And then the water feature that we're talking about right up there in the middle of the plan. And then this is just a close-up view of the water feature as you come in the front door. So not a huge commitment to this. It's a small pump that is actually tied to the irrigation system. And it's really about the sound. It's not about the visual aspect of it. It's just to create some sound out there more so than anything. And then this is what I referred to earlier as this outdoor living room. This is, if you're looking down, you're seeing the main entrance to the building in the back of the rendering to the right. Right behind this, to the right, would be council chambers, and there's a glass wall there. So as you're standing in the lobby looking in, looking out, there's this nice connection between the two, and you really get this feeling of this indoor-outdoor living room type space that hopefully people gravitate to and hang out and socialize. And then looking the other way down towards police and taking into consideration the type of furnishings we put out there, again, to encourage socialization and so forth. Just another view. The senior entrance is over here to the left. And as I mentioned, we are going to take a stab at this. This rendering really doesn't show it, but the incorporation of bioswales, and we're going to be discussing what kind of herbs can be used for the ground cover and what kind of trees we would specify and so forth. So that's it. That's the last slide. So next steps, where we are currently, is we are getting ready to issue our DD documents. They are going out the door this Wednesday, tomorrow. And what those represent are 30% of the construction documents required for construction. And it's a major milestone with the design because within those drawings, the scope should be pretty well defined. The design is pretty well defined. So it allows us to validate that with the team here, but also validate that with the construction manager as respect to the cost of the building. And once we get validation and all that, and we're in line, everybody understands where we are, then we will move forward with construction documents. Right now, we're looking at 2 separate bid packages. One that will be more focused on core and shell. What that will allow the contractor to do is get on site, do site clearing, utilities, demolition. There's a basement on the police side, dig the basement, build the addition, the structural steel, close in the building, demo whatever we need to do on the existing building, and even start to clad the existing building. So that's a big package to get to that point, and that will take care of them for several months. But even at that, about 30 to 40 days after we issue what we're calling bid package number 1, we'll issue bid package number 2, which is all the interior construction. So that's all the interior walls, that's all the interior finishes, that's doors and hardware, that's some mechanical systems, distribution primarily at that point, electrical systems and so forth there. And then they are looking to start construction early April to mid-April. So sometime in April, you can expect to see them out there. They'll put a fence up around the site. They'll start to clear the site. You'll start to see demolition going on with the building itself. So there's going to be a lot of activity going on at this time next year. So it's pretty exciting stuff coming online. So that's all I have for tonight.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hall. Any questions or comments from colleagues? Yes, Mrs. McGregor.
I guess just comment, the arbor-like gazebo-type like
Yeah,
roof, it looks really nice, but we have found that very impractical because it rains, it snows, whatever. But if there's a solid roof, I mean, we put a porch on the back of our house, and if we had that kind of a roof, we would use it probably much less than we do now. So as far as using it outside, it seems like it'd be much more usable with a solid roof on it. And the other thing was the picnic tables, which I know this is probably minuscule, but I mean, if they're back under, if you go anywhere, picnic tables under the shade are always the first ones used. Mm-hmm. So if they're back under rather than out in the sun. But the arbor, I mean, that's just my opinion, but it seems like it would be so much more usable for people to sit outside, eat their lunch, even in inclement weather, if it had a solid roof.
Yeah, well, it will still provide shade. So they will still have shade. But yes, if it starts raining, a lot, then they're going to have to move and go inside the building. But that canopy out there is really not very wide at the end of the day. It's only about 6 to 8 feet wide at best. And it really widens up at the entrances for obvious reasons, because that's where people are sort of running to, so we want to get it out there as far as we can. But we'll take a look at it and
Well, I
take that
guess
into
you showed-
consideration.
You showed seating under there, under the arbor and stuff, and I thought, well, it would be much more used if it was a solid than,
Yeah,
my opinion.
yeah.
Yes, Ms. Bowers.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hall, for being here. This looks fantastic, and I'm glad to get this update. Would MSA be involved? It sounds like you were talking about the bid packages there at the end. Has there been any discussion about project labor agreements or CBAs related to this project?
No, not that I know of. I don't know if,
That's a construction manager type question.
Okay, so not involved with the with
Not
MSA?
necessarily, no. I mean,
Okay.
they validate price for us, or they look over price, and they review the bid packages with us, but they're not necessarily part of the finer details as it relates to who we may select for a particular contract. I know you and I have talked about those couple of items. Those are on the radar of Alfred, the construction manager.
Okay.
And would most likely be a criteria in which a bidder would have the ability to write a couple statements in regards to how they handle those things. But the whole entire bid package would be handled by the construction manager.
Okay, thank you, Director. Thank you.
I should say it looks really good. I like the mounding and the trees, the islands in there, and how you've arranged the parking so that it's not a straight shot. We drove by there the other night, and I thought, so, appreciate it.
Anything else?
If I may.
Oh, yes, Ms. Durfee.
Thank you for being here. I just wanted to, quick comment to thank you for thinking of the Gahanna being the herb capital. And I appreciate the use of trying to put more herbs. Have any decisions been made on if we would try to take things from the herb garden over there or try to have something similar there, or would that not be kind of moving?
So as far as movement goes, I don't necessarily know. That would be a question for Parks and Rec and that particular team. I know our folks do have the drawings. They can make some recommendations on what those types of vegetative cover becomes and what it should be. We really do see, right? We talked at not at length, but we talked quite a bit about this being part of the replacement, if you would, of the herb garden here, and recreating that space here in some form or fashion. Even we talked with the landscape architect when they were in a couple weeks ago on how to, there are certain features out here, and do we want to recreate those here, or do we want it to be fresh and new? And then conversation with Director Farrell as it related to her team getting a look at the plan and seeing where particular plantings could go, so on and so forth. How does that bioswale, how does that play into, is it just we can have a bioswale that's just a drainage ditch, if you would, or we can have a bioswale that actually enhances the property through landscape, so on and so forth. So those are all things that are currently still in play.
Thank you.
Rosemary, we need rosemary, for
Rosemary,
sure.
smells good.
but we have had some discussions too, maybe about doing raised planters back behind the senior area. We're going to see if we can fit a few of them back there. This is really just an acknowledgement to the idea that you are the herb capital, and whatever would be put in here would be like low maintenance, if not zero maintenance. It would grow on its own and do what it does without people out there doing stuff to it.
I just want to echo my colleagues' thanks to you for being here and for the update. I certainly appreciate all the efforts towards safety while maintaining that open government feel and the efforts towards transparency. A quick thought on the safety. I don't know if you can go back to the building outline slide that had the parking lot and the drive on it. Yes, that one. So I guess would there be, I'm assuming there'd be boulders placed along the drive as it wraps around from one side of the building to the other. I guess I'm looking at that northeast corner there.
Yes, exactly. And if you saw the renderings, there are some boulders strategically placed right in that area as you're driving right towards the senior area. So we've mounted that up quite a bit to take that into account. And the same in the other direction too. But there's not as much of a runway there to get in. But I mean, these boulders are going to be big, big stones. So it's going to tear the car up as they go in.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Hall.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Next up, we'll have a couple of items from the Department of Finance. Director Burry. And Director Vollmer.
With me tonight, I also have Brian Cooper with Baker Tilly and Allison Binkley with Squire Patton and Boggs, municipal advisor for the city and the bond council on the issuance that we're about to talk about. So continuing on with 825, back in November of 2022, $8.5 million in short-term notes were issued to purchase the building and the land. Those are coming due on November 2nd of 2023. So we looked at the possibility of maybe a long-term issuance, but time is the main factor that we're considering there. You know, how long do we want money to sit idle before it could be put to work? Arbitrage reasons, and then the volatility of the market. So although a lot has been done with design and architecture, we're still working towards that final estimated cost. So with those timing consideration, it was recommended that we issue another short-term note to roll over the $8.5 million. So we are recommending an ordinance with emergency and waiver to reissue the notes on another short-term basis for 1 year for $8.5 million. We will do this on a negotiated basis, and we'll be using the OMAP program, which is the Ohio Market Access Program, same as we did with the other notes. And the legislation covers all that to ensure we could issue in that manner.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments from colleagues? Yes, Ms. Angelou? No. Oh, no, sorry. I guess for me, Director, could you speak a little bit as to the need for waiver and emergency? I think if we're looking at November, I get we're in August. We knew the 1 year was coming.
Right.
So
So it still does take time to get to market. So once this legislation is passed, then we have to work on the pricing of those notes, and then the negotiated sale of those notes, and then the close-up, which could take anywhere from 45 to 60 days. So making sure that we're giving ourselves enough time to get those priced and on the market for sale.
Thank you. Okay. Next item, please. Oh, wait, hold on, I'm sorry. So this would be on the, I guess I would ask for a regular agenda on Tuesday, the 5th, because the 4th is Labor Day. All right, thank you. Next item, please.
So the next is a request for supplemental appropriations. So this is related to the capital improvement plan. As you may recall, when we passed the appropriations for 2023, we kind of brought a shortened capital list, only bringing forward those items that were needed as we finished finalizing the capital improvement plan. So now that we have that plan finalized and adopted, these are the supplemental appropriations for 2023 projects that are identified within that plan. So we provided a chart with the legislation that gives the amounts, what category they fall into, and the fund. I have directors are here to answer any questions about individual projects, and Kevin can address any questions too regarding the CIP or any of the items being requested. This is also being requested to be on emergency and waiver. There's some timing issues with fleet and ordering vehicles, and Kevin could go into more detail on that if need be.
Just a quick note on this one. I had the waiver requested, but I don't have an emergency.
Oh, sorry, no emergencies
Okay.
required for appropriations. My fault.
Just wanted to be clear. Okay, colleagues? Ms. Barris?
Thank you. Would you mind speaking to the safety, specifically the police cruiser and officer technology, and the police vehicle replacement, just so I have clarity on what those items are?
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. The supplemental is to replenish our fleet program. That has traditionally been in our capital budget for several years. After COVID, vehicle production shut down, especially in a public safety space. We went about 18 months without any, while we had vehicles on order, having those vehicles delivered. So we have a number of high mileage vehicles. We've had some that have had catastrophic failures, blown engines, transmissions. Order windows, which used to be 6 weeks on public safety vehicles, in this last case was down to 1 day. And what we used to be able to do is provide a letter of intent that we were going to purchase X number of vehicles. Now the manufacturers require that the purchase order be in place fully. The amount requested is to make sure that we're able to meet the ordering windows going into 2024 for replacement vehicles that we know are high mileage or have actually passed the mileage indicators for replacement. But we're looking now, what used to be about a 90-day window is now about 6 to 8 months. In terms of officer technology, when we do those appropriations, it's for the complete vehicle. It's for the mobile data computer, it's for the electronics, it's for the data communications, the emergency equipment, light bars. It's the complete package is what we budget for.
Thank you, Chief.
Anything else on this item? Okay. Regular agenda or consent okay on this one? All right, we'll have this one on consent for the 5th, please. Thank you. Items from the Department of Administrative Services. Good evening, Director.
Good evening. The City of Gahanna joined the Central Ohio Risk Management Association, or CORMA, pool earlier this year for property and casualty insurance on Resolution 0007-2023. During that time, I indicated that the renewal period for CORMA is October 1st through September 30th of each year. So when we switched pools to insurance carriers back in April, we paid for April to September 30th of this year. So this request is for a supplemental in the amount of $200,000 to be appropriated to for our insurance renewal that's effective October 1st of 2023 through September 30th of 2025. And then in the 2024 budget, we will budget for the renewal that covers 25 through 20, or 24 through 25. Sorry to say that backwards. The following year after. So essentially we have to budget a year ahead because the renewal is in October and not January. If that makes sense, sorry.
Thank you. Colleagues? Yes, Ms. Bowers?
Yes, thank you, Director. Could you explain or give us maybe some insight into the difference between what we appropriated and what the renewal cost is?
Yeah, so the amount that was appropriated last year was appropriated based on the amount of the pool that we were in at the time. And since we joined CORMA in April, the pool operates much differently than the other pool that we were in. And so there's a higher cost to being, there's not necessarily a higher cost, but there's not enough money budgeted for the rest of the year to pay the insurance premium. Because when we budgeted last year, it was for the insurance premium for the entire year, and we've already used part of that money to pay for August through October, and because we need to renew from October to September, there's not enough funds left. Does that make sense?
it sounds like it was prorated, the way we
Correct.
appropriated was a prorated amount, is kind of what I'm understanding.
Yeah, the amount that we paid from April 1st to September 30th was a prorated amount because we joined the insurance year essentially like mid-year through. So the amount is needed in order to pay for the renewal for the following year because it's not on a budget calendar.
This one, first and then consent on this one? All right, thank you. Thank you, Director. Last but not least, we've got items from the Department of Engineering. Come on down, Director.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Before you this evening is we've wrapped up the 2021 sidewalk maintenance program. And as a part of that, we've finalized the quantities and the cost attributable to the property owners within the program. And as a part of our code and the proceedings for recapturing payment, a public hearing is the next step in that process. Upon having that public hearing, the property owners have 30 days to either make payment in full or have those costs associated to the defects and the cost to remedy on a assessment on their property taxes. So that's the next step in the process, and we're looking forward to having the public hearing on September 5th and then proceeding accordingly. Any questions?
Thank you, Director. Yes, Mrs. McGregor.
It's just one question. It says that the clerk shall certify the amount of such assessment, its effective date, and its rate of interest to the county auditor. It's still 0% interest, right?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
I guess from a timeline standpoint, we're now looking back and
Correct.
trying to bring everything based on the changes that have recently been approved.
That is correct.
So I just want to make a blanket thank you to you and your team for all of your efforts. And I know there's been a lot of feedback from council, and so your work implementing that and coming back before council, it is greatly appreciated. Anything else on this item? So I see we're waiver and emergencies requested on this one, so we'll put this on the regular agenda for the 5th.
Fine with it going on consent. since
Consent?
it's just an
Folks good with
assessment.
consent?
It's a procedural kind of situation.
Mr. Clerk, consent on this one for the 5th. Thank you, Director. Anything else for the committee this evening? All right, well,
Wait,
sorry, Ms. Angela.
Next week, we're going to have a visitor,
No PEC.
NOPEC. So that, to explain that to us, I just wanted to make sure that people knew that was going to be part of that.
Thank you.
And thank you, Chair.
And because of the Labor Day holiday, we'll be meeting Tuesday, the 5th. All right, we'll adjourn for the evening. Thank you.
Did we say that?